and welcome to this episode of the new season 5 of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter, and often guests talk about digital topics, including the world of online communications and digital inclusion, in a show which was the brainchild of digital storyteller, the late and still much missed John Popham. Sweyn, how are you, and how have you been over the last 3 months?
Very well. I had all sorts of things happening over the summer. But very pleased to be back. And yes, I say the summer. We're into Greenwich Mean Time already, so we're only just back. So
Yeah.
yeah, good.
Well, so what are the highlights of the summer for you? I know you had the Orkney Science Festival just after we
Yes,
finished the last end of
yes,
the last season.
yes. That was very as exciting and interesting as ever. And
Mm,
gradually some recordings are appearing online as well. We
hmm
didn't do any live streaming this year, but we've got a whole pile of recordings coming on. And just all sorts of family things and nice things, and not very much good weather over the summer here in Orkney, but I think there's always next year.
Live in hope, yeah. And of course, we met up, and
We
kind of
did,
regular readers will or viewers will notice that the picture we have this season, is actually of us in the same place at the same time, next to
right.
each other.
I'd forgotten that was during the summer break. Yes,
Yeah.
Data Camp 9 in
Mm.
Manchester. It's great fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was very, very good. So those of you who are interested in open data, we worked together as part of the organizing team for Open Data Camp 9 in Manchester, as Sweyn has said, and yeah, it was great to finally meet up face to face and just spend the weekend together doing open data type stuff and yeah, different things from what we regularly talk about on the Direct Dr. Tech Show, but it was great. Good to meet together and
It was.
hang
It
out
was a
hang
great.
out with the other organizers.
It was a great event as well. It was really good.
Mm, very, very good. And so yeah, we're kind of, I know the organizing team, we're talking about organizing number 10 now. So we're hopefully keep an eye on that if you're interested to for an announcement about that when we can confirm it. But yeah, it's in the machinations, shall we say. We started
Yes.
meeting again as a team. So yeah, good things
That'll be fun.
hopefully coming. So let's do the weather report.
Oh
How's the
yes.
weather been this week where you are, Sweyn?
It's been pretty rainy. It's been not too windy, which is good. But yes, rain and not quite dull. And the days are getting shorter as well. So we're already before we know where we are, it'll be Christmas.
I know, I know. So people are counting on the number of Fridays. Yeah, in my neck of the woods. Yeah,
All right.
here in Birmingham, it's been well, there's been rain on the paved stones outside my house, but not too much uh bad weather. You know, I'm kind of in a jumper
Hmm.
now, but it's I've been in short sleeves some of the week, which has been not nice. Um, I've also been out celebrating with colleagues during Birmingham Tech Week, which was last
Ah,
week. And that was very exciting and interesting. I went to events on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday I was at
wow.
the awards and dinner dance, so that was very nice. But yeah, it was, and in fact, this year, I was on a panel with West Midlands Combined Authority, did a panel on Digital Skills Day, with myself and colleagues from City Council, Good Things Foundation, and Vodafone. So it was useful to talk about
Good.
digital
Yes.
inclusion in the region, and we had a good audience of people from not just the usual suspects, but people from corporates and other new people as well, which was
That's great.
great to have in the room. Yeah, really the sort of thing I want to see during a Tech
Yeah.
Week event. So yeah,
Good.
so we got some dates or a date for that upcoming as we usually do, and it's Trustees Week on the 4th to the 8th of November 2024, and Sweyn's got the screen, the website on screen now. And during Trustees Week, they say you have the chance to connect with other trustees, share your experiences, or find out how to become a trustee. And you'll also be able to develop your skills through their wide range of events, training, and guidance. And they look forward to celebrating, supporting, and inspiring trustees. So yeah, good experience to have if you've got especially if you've got digital experience and want to be a digital trustee. I know that Third Sector Lab in our friend in Scotland, Ross McCullough, is busy offering training sessions for people interested in becoming a digital trustee, so bringing their digital and data skills to support a voluntary organisation. Yeah, I've been a trustee for many years. I'm actually just about to step down from my last trustee role with West Midlands Funders Network. And hopefully I'll be able to take a break and perhaps not be a trustee again. There's plenty of other people coming up who maybe can offer their skills. I think the only thing I would be again is a digital trustee.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think I'd like to concentrate on that now if I ever do a
Yeah.
trustee role
Yeah.
again. Have you been a trustee
No,
yourself, Sweyn?
I haven't. I mean, I've been on committees of various associations and so on, but not an actual trustee of a charity.
Mm, mm.
It's just never something that's I've been a volunteer for all sorts of things, but never, as it were, on the board. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a
yeah.
responsibility, and not everybody has the time or energy to
Mm,
want to put into it. But it is a good, for their career and stuff. I think it's
mm,
it's good for people to think about offering some time,
yes.
understanding that it is a commitment, and it's not just about turning up at a board meeting once
Mm,
every quarter.
no.
Um, but with digital trustees, obviously, it's good if you can offer your skills. But what I would say to anybody considering it is you need to have an interest in the topic of the charity that you're volunteering for.
Yes.
If you're just there to offer your digital skills, it'll
No.
be very frustrating for you
Yes.
because things don't move as quickly in charities as you might like them to. So,
Mm,
um, best to have a long-term view on that.
mm, mm.
Okay, moving on to events, and one of these events is actually taking part during Trustees Week. WCVA is offering a webinar. That's Wales Council of Voluntary Action, offering a webinar on data protection law, your obligations, common breaches, and how to avoid them. And this caught my eye because it seemed like a very simple um, digital type event that I've kind of over the summer I've been more engaged with it with Tech Week and sort of more kind of bigger, higher corporate digital transformation stuff. And this seems very basic, but very important for voluntary organizations to know about data protection and for their staff to know how to avoid breaches because the ICO does offer great information, and other organizations like National Council for Cybersecurity offers good training on this as well. But this is one from the ICO where they'll share simple steps on how to comply with data protection laws and discuss some of the common breaches reported to them from this sector with guidance on how to avoid them. So always good to gen up on that. Is that something that you know much about data protection, Sweyn?
I used to know all about data protection until GDPR came in, and then I kind of learned a bit of that. But yeah, it's something that's always in the back of my mind.
Mm,
I think if you work for a local authority, as I did for long enough, it, it, there's no getting around the fact that you have to think about it in virtually everything that you do. All the
mm,
information that you have has to be dealt with, appropriately and safeguarded and only shared where it's legitimate to do so.
mm,
So
mm.
yes,
Yeah.
the G, the GDPR thing, when that came in a few years ago now, and that seemed to make it all a lot more structured and a bit more complicated. But it's always good to have a refresher on those sorts of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's for Wales. I'm sure other parts of the country are offering similar updates on data protection from time to time. So do
I
do
think
keep a lookout
I
for
think
them.
data protection laws are the same across the UK. I think they are. A freedom of information is slightly different in Scotland than it is in England, I think. But the data protection side, I think, is the same
Mm,
um, across the UK.
okay, good to know. Thank you. Okay, and then another date we picked up on the 14th of November. There's an event called Selling Your Brilliant Volunteering Story, Digital Media on Mobile Devices. It's being offered at Full of Noises, Abbey Road, Barrow-in-Furness. And this is organised by Cumbria CVS, a practical hands-on, the blurb says, stroke guerrilla digital media session for on-the-fly production of content suitable for quick turnaround and social media use, not glossy cinema quality films. The session will give participants a basic
Oh,
understanding. Yeah?
I think it's cancelled.
Ah, oh dear.
But it was a good
Okay.
idea.
Yeah. Because yeah, it was going to cover telling the story, recording and making. Oh dear.
Maybe they've
maybe they,
rescheduled it, and
yeah,
we'll have to
maybe they have.
look at that.
Okay, well, that was going to be a great one. It shows the topicality of our program because we just
That
put that
wasn't
on the
cancelled.
grid last night.
Yes, it wasn't cancelled yesterday. There we are.
No, no.
Oh well,
Okay,
no,
maybe.
but I think the idea is a good one though.
Mm,
Is to I like the focus on getting your message across rather than glitzy production stuff.
mm,
I think that's very good, and hopefully there'll be another chance to get involved in that one.
yeah.
I love the name of the venue as well. Full of Noises, Abbey Road,
Yeah.
Barrow.
Yes. Excellent. So yeah, I mean, we all carry so much technology in our smartphones, everybody, that it is much easier these days to make video than it used to be. I was at an event on this dinner for the Birmingham Tech Week dinner on Friday, and I videoed the winners of the Diversity Champion prize, which I happened to be on the table for, going up to receive their award and then coming back down again. And the CEO was very pleased to have my video with
Yeah.
capturing what they'd done. So yeah, but yeah, it's good to get some tips about how to make it look better. Even things like portrait or landscape. There's been a change in that, I think. 'Cause Dan Slee is the person I think that we would check out
Mm,
for kind of the correct way to do these things. And
mm.
I think they've recently changed from recommending landscape to portrait because it kind of looks better in some of the new platforms. Is that right?
Yes, I think that's right.
Hmm.
I think more and more platforms are defaulting to portrait rather than landscape, and
Mm.
yeah, it's just a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about platforms in a further
Yeah.
program because things are changing there. In fact, there's a new book out called Platform Land, that someone we know, Emer Coleman, did a talk about recently. Um, so yeah, let's have a look at that and kind of
Mm.
maybe even ask the author to come on the show and talk about it, or somebody who knows about the um the change in platforms to
Mm.
come and talk about it because I think it would be a topical thing. I think things that our guests, our readers and listeners might be interested in. There you go. So Sweyn's got it on screen now. Platform Land: Anatomy of Next Generation Public Services by Richard Pope. Um. So yeah, what's the blurb say? Sweyn, can
It
you?
says this book describes the types of interaction we should expect from the next generation of public services, the digital platforms and infrastructure they will be built with, and the public sector design values needed to make them a reality. And it's got all sorts of illustrations and examples of strategic interventions and examples of emerging patterns in digital government. So that looks very exciting.
Great. I mean, it's probably more advanced than some of our
Yeah.
readers and listeners
Uh,
might want, but I always think it's useful to see what's coming, you, and just be aware of what else is out there to
yeah,
give people
it's good.
information. Yeah. Okay, so on this first episode of season 5 of the Dr. Tech Show, we don't have a guest. But it's actually episode 120, Sweyn, of our
Is
of
it
our
now?
episodes, which is very
Oh, I
nice to
hadn't noticed
note.
that.
Um, but our guests from last season were Ariel Tai from Pro Cymru, the head of digital, and she's also involved with Tech for Good network in the UK, and hosts her own podcast. Nish Doshi from Tech for Good Organisers Network, and she's the network. They are the network coordinator for that network, and they are a community organizer and change maker. We had Stephanie Sharbeen from Community Tech Aid, Janina McKenzie, digital and strategic lead from JMK and Co. We had our old friend Paul Clayton from Comfortably Digital, who in fact came on the show twice. Paul's a regular on the show, and we're always pleased to see him and update on what he's been doing. And lastly, we had Mike Tarbord, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Every Child Online. So that was a selection of guests. I suppose it's fair to say we had fewer guests in season 4 than we have in previous seasons, but a small but quality lineup. So that gives you some idea of the kind of people we have on to talk about what they're doing. We welcome anybody really who wants to talk about digital inclusion, online communications, just to recap, this program started during lockdown when the late John Popham, who was an internet guru, realized that there needs to be some way of kind of communicating about and helping other people to get online during lockdown when so many people were kind of being very isolated, even more so than maybe previously. And so he asked for a couple of volunteers to come forward and kind of work with him on this, and Sweyn and I stepped up, and then once he sadly died, so in the September of that year, we decided we'd love to keep going, and with the support and approval of his family, we decided to keep Dr. Tech Show going, and we think we've done a reasonable job, and I think John would be happy with what we've done so far. Is that fair to say, Sweyn?
I'm sure he'd have lots to say, but he'd be basically very supportive as usual.
Yeah, yeah. So it's still good to meet people who knew John and worked with him, and so we're always happy to have a guest who did know John and is happy to talk about him and all the great work he did. And he would have been, he would have come into his element really even more with things that have happened during COVID and since, but sadly that wasn't to be. My own mother, actually, as it happens, Sweyn's in hospital at the moment, and Wi-Fi has been she's had mixed results with the Wi-Fi, shall we say. In Ireland, this is Ireland. But it's good to kind of reminisce about John's involvement in hospital Wi-Fi. Yep. And he was prescient. He knew it would be more and more important as the years wore on. So he really agitated for that, and I think he had an influence in
he ended up being
sure
on the
NHS has Wi-Fi.
He was on the project board that oversaw Wi-Fi being introduced across England. So yes.
Brilliant, yeah. So thanks again, John. You were a man before your time.
Absolutely.
And you are still very much missed. Okay, so moving on, we'll just go straight into the kind of stories that we have been picking up for the last few months. We have a few actually that were left over from the last season, and so we'll see how well they've worn, shall we say. We'll go through them, and then we've got some new stories as well. So the first one is from a shadow report to the U.S. Senate and on an AI policy roadmap, and this was taken from LinkedIn. And they had this was a roadmap from U.S. civil society bodies, and they had a list of priorities that represent the floor, not the ceiling. They're saying in the blurb that appeared, and these list of priorities, there's 11 of them, so I'll read them out. Were to uphold racial justice and equity, protect immigrant communities, deliver AI accountability with validation and testing, put workers in a decision-making position, minimize data to uphold privacy and end incentives for mass surveillance, enable competition, protect consumers, safeguard democracy, industrial policy that serves the public, poverty, and minimize climate change. And I've realized this is a post actually from Rachel Caldicott, who we often talk about on this show as well, about this shadow roadmap. So it's, if Rachel's talking about it, then it's worth talking about. So Rachel says these kind of demands are the base social contract, but they're often considered by those at the techno-optimistic end of the scale to be dreary and constrain innovation. But she says, what good is innovation if it doesn't improve the lives of everyone? And this actually leads back for me to Rachel's great work on AI, and her slogan that she has put on a t-shirt is let's make AI work for 8 billion people, not 8 billionaires, which I think everyone can relate to.
Very good.
So yeah, she's certainly on the ball as regards AI. In fact, I was talking to somebody about her at this dinner I was at on Friday. I keep talking about it, but yeah, it's great to be able to know that people are out there doing such great work and be able to kind of connect people together, really. Yeah. So we'll go on to the next item, which was from a friend of ours who has appeared on the show previously, about making your comms accessible. And as this show started with kind of improving online communications or making online online communications easier, it seems relevant to talk about Madeline. What's Madeline's surname? It's there on the screen.
Sudden.
Sugden. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the article it's from Madeline's blog, and it's called Make Your Comms Accessible. And Madeline says that as the charity sector, we should be so much better at making our comms accessible to everyone. And she asks, how do your comms match up? Are you an accessibility first organization, or maybe it's not something you think about? And she says her concerns are on her digital travels across the sector. She still sees campaign or brand videos without voiceovers or text descriptions or subtitles, endless PDF reports, images on social media without alt text, badly formatted forms on websites, and so many click here, stroke read more links, which obviously she thinks aren't good things to have. So what she's recommending obviously is the opposite of these things. So we need voiceovers. If you're doing a video, please provide a voiceover or a text description or subtitles. PDF reports, I'm a mixed about that, but I mean, I think it's if you can make your reports more accessible and not as PDFs, and so people don't have to convert them when they download them, then that obviously would be make them more accessible. Alt text, I'm definitely sold on that. In fact, the post that I shared on LinkedIn just before we came on air with our new header on, I made sure to put alt text on, it's important because people can access it more easily that way. Forms on websites, well, a bugbear of mine. In fact, it was something I over the summer I was trying to fill in a form on some website, and it was just not. I was trying to do it on my phone, and it wasn't optimized for mobile. So I contacted the person who put the form up and said, this has happened, and maybe you'd like to do something about it. You never know how people are going to react to you suggesting that they change things, but I think it's worth asking about it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finally, Madeline said about the click here, read more links. So I'm guilty of that, I suppose. I don't know what alternative you could have for click here, read more. Maybe just provide the link.
I think what you're supposed to do is just highlight a phrase, write it in such a way as to make it clear what's going on, and just highlight a phrase that you want to make a link rather than
Okay.
saying saying all the information and then saying click here for more details and then something to click on. I think it's supposed to be embedded within the text of what you're actually writing. I think.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we've picked out just a couple more sentences. Adapting your comms so what you produce can be accessed by everyone. It's just the right thing to do, she says, and embedding some extra steps will help to make sure accessibility is part of your quality control. So some useful tips from Madeline there. And again, as I say, she's been on the program before. Maybe she'd like to come back and join us again. When we had her on before, she talked about radio lento as well. Do you remember the slow radio?
That's right.
Kind of music or sounds that she and her partner have recorded. And they've had like tons of downloads of that. So maybe she'll like to come on and talk about that, how that's doing now in kind of 2024. Okay, next article is again from a LinkedIn post. What could a local government centre for digital technology actually do? So neither of us work in local government anymore, but we obviously maintain an interest because local government influences so much of what happens in people's lives in the UK. So good to think about what this might be, how relevant this might be to us. So the first bullet point there is coordinate procurement, which was something I didn't know anything about really before I worked in the public sector. I think people don't really actually realize how much it influences what goes on. So this writer, Dave Briggs, who's another friend of ours, is keen to see procurement being coordinated. He says the first thing for him would be to start investigating how the buying power of the sector could be consolidated to produce economies of scale and better contracts. I think that's an old refrain that you will have heard elsewhere. He's going on to say he'd start in the bottom right of a worldly map. Now that would be a kind of an unfamiliar term to some people. Can you explain worldly maps?
Not really. Uh,
I know it's something I've heard about at Open Data Camp, but I'm not.
they're they're a way of showing how specialist or how commoditized a product or a process is.
Mm,
But I'm more than that. I couldn't really describe without
okay,
a great
okay.
deal more research.
So again, maybe we need somebody to come on the show and talk to us about worldly maps. As I say, it is a popular topic at Open Data Camp, so I know that it's in
So
our
I think
it's in
the
our
point he's making here,
wheelhouse.
the point he's making here is that there are some things that you procure for that are just basic commodities like pens, paper, laptops,
Mm,
all sorts of things that there's no there just can't be any difference between one council and another.
mm,
And there'll be other things obviously that councils procure that are more specialized and do have more um local customization needed. So he's just saying, start with the easy stuff, start with the stuff
mm,
that's commodities,
yeah.
and get the contracts of those sorted out. There have been lots of efforts to do this over the years, some more successful than others, and they kind of come and go. I think Scotland has got quite a long way on this.
Mm-hmm.
Scotland and London as well both have
Mm,
about 30 something councils. I think that's a good number to aggregate together enough to actually make a difference to the quantities that you want
mm,
to buy without being so complicated that you need to involve, dozens and dozens or hundreds of different organizations.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's all just absolutely straightforward common sense to do
Yeah.
that. But I'm not certain that a digital local government organization is necessarily the place to do this when there are already procurement organizations already running joint contracts for councils and so on. So maybe that's a maybe it would make more sense to get involved in those existing initiatives and to set something
Mm,
new up.
mm. Sure. That sounds sensible. So moving on, we'll go on to the next bullet point on this article, and it's about he says fill the security gaps. He says with the cyber assessment framework and the LGAs, the local government associations, own cyber 360 reviews, there's plenty of advice out there in terms of best practice on security. However, many councils are lacking the capacity and the capability to implement this guidance, which is kind of worrying when you hear about it. He says it's nobody's fault, just the result of many small organisations who, through years of austerity, have been unable to invest in their technical infrastructure. And he says the solution is sorted by having support available to councils to put in place the measures needed to ensure that data and information is kept as safe as possible from a technical standpoint. Flying squads of security experts who understand the local government environment, are knowledgeable about the frameworks and guidance, and can put in place the necessary steps to make all councils as secure as possible. Well, this would be of interest surely to citizens to know that their information may not be secure, but that there's resources available to try and
I think
secure them. So,
I think he's absolutely right that there is a lack of resource in most organizations in this area, partly because salaries in the private sector are so high. It's very
yeah.
difficult to be able to afford to pay people enough to attract the real experts in this stuff. And I
Hmm.
think one one thing that a joint local government digital body could do would be to try and address that. Yeah,
Mm,
good idea.
absolutely. Moving on, he says about education, 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 because he thinks it's so important. He wants, he suggests an effort to increase the knowledge of digital across local government, and obviously we would applaud and kind of endorse that. He says the level of digital confidence within the general workforce in the sector is remarkably low, and this is interesting to me because most of the people I meet, of course, in the local government have high digital skills because they're the ones who I'm meeting through local GovCamp, etc. So I'm not meeting the others really, but from my time in a council, Birmingham City Council, yes, I sort of would agree with that. It's kind of disappointing, I suppose, to hear that it's still low. He's also saying politicians need to understand what levers they need to pull to make sure the right long-term decisions are being made around technology strategy, which is very relevant as well. Maybe the councils need some digital trustee type training as well. Um, specialist teams, he's saying, within local government need to be up to speed with cloud development, security, and data, depending on their role. and for council teams to be more confident in using user-centric service design approaches. So obviously this technology center, is desperately needed. Moving on, he says about data and standards. Nobody so far has the right mix of time, money, intestinal fortitude to get it done properly. So yeah, again, we understand that from the work we do with Open Data Camp and others. Yeah, it's a minefield. He says it's a big ask, and no wonder progress has been slow. But so many of these problems are shared by every single council in the country. So a centre, such as the one being proposed, could come up with a host of replicable and scalable answers to these problems. He talks about data standards as well, and producing reusable data sharing agreements and policy agreements. That would be great. I mean, I could relate to that in my sector as well, to help collaboration, because it's so much needed. Finally, he goes on to innovation at scale, wanting to see some collective effort at innovating in a coordinated, replicable and scalable way, pooled resources that can reduce the risk exposure for individual councils, bringing together best brains and ideas with the people best at delivering results to experiment, test, iterate and improve on radical ideas for local public services. So yeah, great ideas, and hopefully, we'll see this followed through with.
Again, I think there are pockets of this around the UK. I think the Scottish Office for Local Government, no, the Scottish Digital Office for Local Government is a lot of what he's suggesting here is that are things they try to address, some with more success than others, and some with better resource from the various funders that they have from others. And there's also there's a London equivalent as well for all the London
Lottie,
boroughs.
yeah.
Lottie,
London Office of Technology
and
and Innovation, yeah.
I always fear when I read this sort of thing about local government in general in England that it's such a complicated and enormously massive landscape in number of organizations, even different types of organizations. You've got everything from, I think we're probably excluding parish councils from this, but the next layer up would be small district councils, right up to like metro mayors, and that's all local government. And there's a real issue with having a body that addresses the whole sector. And I just wonder, part of me wonders just how realistic it is. But on the other hand, part of me says, well, it can't be that difficult since all the services that are trying to be provided certainly across England and across Scotland and across Wales, across Northern Ireland individually, they're all recognizably similar. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, Dave's in a great position to know about all of what's happening with his involvement with local gov camp. So
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully we'll kind of keep an eye on that and see how it develops. Okay, moving on. The next story is from lead.org.uk, celebrating Milestone. And this was Lead Scotland winning the SCVO Scottish Charity Awards Digital Difference Award. And this was again kind of at the end of last season. And this is an organisation whose mission is to support disabled individuals and carers to become empowered through personalised learning opportunities, befriending support, helpline advice and information. And more recently, they've recognised the immense potential of digital technology to enhance their services and reach even more people who are at risk of being left behind. So this award underscored their dedication to digital inclusion and the transformative power it holds for those who they serve. There's the quote from the CEO, Emma Whitelock, is too many disabled people have been exposed to online risks through a lack of accessible information about how to stay safe online in the face of evolving cyber threats. Our cyber project works hard with disabled people and partners, including the National Cyber Security Centre and the Cyber Scotland Partnership, to create accessible materials resources to close that gap. So well done. And the kind of initiatives they have had on their journey is running cyber safety workshops, developing accessible learning materials, building a platform called My Lead, built by JP Morgan and Chase and Lead Scotland, offering free online courses, focused on enhancing digital literacy and safety, cyber awareness campaigns, and collaborations and partnerships. So that sounds like a really good organization. And again, one like we kind of in this program we visit so many, come across many stories like this, and we can see the um, replicability of it for other organizations as well. So well done to Lead Scotland, and hopefully others will learn from this great work. Is it an organization that you were familiar with before,
I wasn't. No, I
Sweyn?
need to look
Yeah.
into this.
Mm,
I have not heard of them before,
yeah.
but it sounds great.
Mm, well done. Okay, and so moving on to kind of a few more stories that we've now caught up. That all those previous stories were from the end of season 4, so we're on to season 5 stories now, and this is from the Good Things Foundation, who wrote a piece on the main UK data sets for digital inclusion, which I picked up over the weekend, and they list the key data sets used to track digital inclusion and digital exclusion, and they are Ofcom's affordability tracker, tech tracker, media use and attitudes research, and Lloyd's Banking Group's UK Consumer Digital Index. And I know the 2023 one was came out around this time of year, November, I think. So I'm kind of keeping an eye out for the 2024 one. I'm sure it's on the way. But vital ones and ones I use every week in my work to track digital inclusion and kind of see what's happening or not happening as well. This briefing also uses recent UK surveys, and they include the Nominate Digital Use Index, the minimum digital living standard survey for households and with children, and the DWP's digital skills, channel preference, and access needs. And some of those are more new to me. I'm not sure if you're
Hmm.
familiar with them, Sweyn.
I've
Does
not
that ring any bells with you?
I've not come across the last one, but I think we had an item on the minimum digital living standard
We
survey.
did. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I remember thinking that that was a very kind of refreshing way of looking at what digital inclusion kind of means for certain
Mm.
types of household.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one, this that we've kind of just in our notes on this item refers to the Office for National Statistics data, and the latest release was internet users in 2020, which in
Mm,
2024 seems like a long time ago as regards to the internet. And they use one question to estimate the online population, and that is, have you used the internet in the last 3 months? Not 3 weeks, not 3 days, 3 months. So
mm.
Sweyn, what's your um, initial thoughts on that as a question for measuring?
Don't think it's a good question at all.
Yeah,
It's clearly a question that was thought up many years ago and is still surviving and being asked, even though it can't really have very much actual relevance. I
yeah,
mean, you say if you answer no, then obviously you're not doing much online. If you answer yes, that doesn't actually tell you anything very much,
mm,
surely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it is
And
one of
and
the
hence
questions.
hence the importance of these new things like the minimum digital living standard and all of those
Mm,
things, which are
yeah.
a little bit more finely grained.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean it's come up in in the I'd say in the last year quite a bit in the groups I've been working with. Um, that it's not a reasonable measure.
No.
I'm sure in 2020 it might just have been, but
Mm,
certainly not now. Especially since COVID and lockdown and all the
mm.
changes that happened during then,
A-
whether they
Am I
were
am
wished or
I
not.
am I reading that correct to say that the latest data is from 2020 as well?
Yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
that
Yeah,
makes it even
just
more
yeah,
useless.
exactly. So yeah, that's
Yes.
one that's definitely
Wow.
needed an update. And of course the other um thing that gets still being chucked around is the government's digital inclusion strategy. As we've said on this program before, the last time that was updated was 2014, so that's 10 years old. So
Yeah.
that's just no good, really,
Yeah.
for anyone trying to work in this field. So I know the government is kind of being encouraged, shall we say, to revisit that and update that as quickly as possible.
Mm.
But this ONS one is included in part of the discussion about that, so that this question gets updated. I mean,
Yep.
I'd say minimum 3 weeks, but even that,
I think one question is never. I don't think you're ever going to get a single question which is
yeah,
particularly useful on its
yeah,
own, given the range of different online stuff there is.
mm,
I don't
yeah,
see really. You're going to have to ask at least half a dozen questions to get
yeah,
any sort of
yes.
information at all.
I think you're right, especially because, as we know, and kind of this seems like really funny to people who aren't, kind of working in this world regularly. And although that number of people seems to get fewer and fewer because everybody's online now, as they say. But some people, you'd ask them, are they on online, and they say no, and then you ask them, have you got a Facebook account? Oh yeah, I'm on that every day.
Yes,
So they
yes,
don't make the connection between what they
yes,
do and being on the internet. So
yes.
it's yeah, it's an education piece there as well, which is ongoing. Yeah. Okay, we've got a few more stories to work through, and this next one was one I found of interest because Accenture is one of the sponsors of Birmingham Tech Week, so it was interesting to see that they are having a project to help tackle the UK's digital inclusion gap in disadvantaged areas across the UK, and it's been called regenerative AI that will empower over 1 million people in socioeconomically disadvantaged communities across the country to build their AI skills. Interesting way of approaching digital inclusion. And maybe we can get somebody from Accenture to come on and talk to us about this because it sounds really radical compared to what's been done previously. The article goes on to remind us that 8.5 million adults in the UK still lack basic digital skills, and this puts them at risk of missing out on the educational, social, and economic opportunities offered by AI. So this project over the next 3 years will bring community partners and organizations together with volunteers from Accenture to help over 1 million people build their AI skills through a series of programs that will enable them to access devices, data, and AI literacy courses. And this is based on Accenture's recent analysis, which says that the UK could stand to gain an additional £736 billion above baseline from generative AI by 2038. However, this is dependent on organizations taking a people-centric approach that prioritizes supporting current and future workers with the correct skills, particularly those with lower levels of digital skills and less formal education who could be more negatively impacted. So what do you think of that then, Sweyn?
I don't know what to think of it. Um, it's obviously a good idea. Whether it is the facet of digital inclusion that needs focus at this stage, I don't know. Um, I don't know. It's some of the statistics that you've just read out seem a bit difficult to fathom. I
Mm,
don't know what an additional 736 billion above baseline from generative AI by 2038 actually means.
mm,
Um, I think it's important for people to understand how AI works and what its opportunities and limitations are. So from that point of view, I think it's a good thing.
mm.
Yeah.
I just think, expecting people in socioeconomically disadvantaged communities to understand what how to even get started on this is a leap.
Hmm.
So I'm interested to see what they're going to be um doing to bring people together to do this because as I say, so many people I know are still lacking basic digital skills, and
Hmm.
this would seem like a leap too far. But I'm hopeful
Hmm.
if it can be done. I mean, I'm talking about AI regularly, as I'm sure you are. I was just on a call with some colleagues from Birmingham, from voluntary organizations in Birmingham recently, talking about bid writing, and I kind of hesitated before suggesting it, but I did suggest that maybe AI could help them draft something that they could then work on. And some of them
Yeah.
had never even looked at ChatGPT or Claude or
Yeah.
Copilot or Gemini, any of the more popular, more well-known AIs, to kind of think about doing that, and they're nervous about it.
Yeah.
And I read something else, I think yesterday, that said that the amount of time that people are spending on AI that isn't productive, they're not finding anything, that it's not making a difference,
Yeah.
is huge. So
Yes.
there needs to be a really understanding of what you're doing before you do it, so
Yeah.
all the kind of groundwork needs to be done before they kind of start throwing people into this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be interested to
Yeah.
see how it develops. And I'll see if we can get somebody from Accenture
Yes. It'd be
come
nice
and talk about it, because
to hear a bit more detail of
yeah,
what the
it'd be
thinking
good
is.
to, yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've got two more stories. We may be finishing early today, but that's okay.
That's
It's the
okay.
first episode back on after our break, so it's fine to give people a bit of time off. There's what the tweeter Gary Marcus says, a damning new study on Gen AI from Upwork. And actually, this was the story I was referring to. This was the one I was referring to just now. And the quote is, nearly half, 47% of workers using AI say they have no idea how to achieve the productivity gains their employers expect. Over 3 and 4, 77% say AI tools have decreased their productivity and added to their workload in at least one way. Well, there you go.
Well, a new who would ever have thought a new technology increasing workload? Wow. Where have we ever seen that before?
Yeah.
No, I think this is inevitable. Ah, there's an absolute pattern here of
Mm,
new technologies. And I suppose the important thing to realize here is that these statistics we're talking about here are not percentages of people who are digitally excluded or anything. These are actually percentages of people who are in work and are probably using digital
mm,
tools of various types.
mm,
So it's kind of a different question, this one to the last one.
yeah.
Yes. Uh, it, it'll be interesting to see how this changes and develops.
Hmm.
Um, and whether or not AI can actually escape from being very generic and very not selective, but just stop getting things wrong, basically.
Mm,
It'd
mm,
be interesting to see how that confidence that people have that what they're getting out of AI is actually something that's useful might change over time.
mm,
But yeah, I think the fact that it's that people are being just jumping into it without much training, without much awareness of what they're trying to achieve, it's not surprising that it's then confusing and time consuming because
mm,
that's what happens.
mm. Yeah. So we will watch with interest.
Interesting report
Um,
that one.
yeah, yeah. And in fact, that resounds with the or echoes the article, the blog post that Dave Briggs again
Hmm.
talked about in the last season, where he said, AI might be good for productivity hacks, but not much else at the moment. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he was prescient in that. Okay, our last story is about the WordPress drama, and if you're not familiar with this, if you're not familiar with WordPress, it's a platform that's used by many voluntary organizations and many statutory organizations as well to build websites. And it's very popular and is open source, which is
Well, it's
why this
free. Yeah.
yeah why this drama has kind of exploded over the communities, because there's so many people. So the headline that we've got from this article is WordPress drama explained and how it may affect your website, and we'll provide links as we usually do on the YouTube channel to this program, so you can read more yourself. But the quick summary is there's a lawsuit between two WordPress companies, WP Engine and Automatic, around a trademark dispute. Due to their influence, there have been escalations that have led to a lot of negative PR for the WordPress ecosystem. However, the vast majority of WordPress sites are not impacted by this at all. So that's kind of the TLD or too long, didn't read version of what's going on. I picked up on this from a post that a friend of mine, Rachel McLean Brooks, posted on Facebook. And she used to be a WordPress developer. She used to use WordPress and develop WordPress sites. So that's I kind of knew she was a reputable person to listen to. And she was just saying, this kind of the owner of WordPress, Matt Mullenweg, publicized this dispute as Sweyn has on screen now. Publicized this dispute at the annual WordCamp US conference, where he claimed that WP Engine, despite being a $400 million plus revenue company, does not give back enough to the free open source WordPress project. And that kind of, maybe that was the blue touch paper, but so both companies sent each other a formal legal cease and desist letter, and then due to legal threats, Matt kind of got hyped up about it. So if you just go back up that line, yeah, Matt, as co-founder of WordPress, banned WP Engine from accessing WordPress.org servers. I mean, this is getting very kind of more technical than we usually have on this program, but basically not a good move and not a good look either for WordPress being kind of open source and stuff. So basically, customers with websites on this WP Engine hosting weren't able to receive updates from the WordPress.org servers, and so on and so on. Yeah, so there has been a temporary reversion, but it's all still up in the air, I think. And yeah, there's legal matters ensuing, I think. I mean, I think I shared this with you, Sweyn, a couple of weeks ago, and it was a surprise to both of us and disappointing, really, to see it happening.
Well, I'm not sure I fully understand all the implications, I must say, but it basically means that not immediately, but in the medium term, the whole WordPress landscape might become a bit more complicated and a bit less common. We might end up with different versions of things, which are now currently fairly standard. So, yeah.
And some people are saying, don't worry about it, it won't get to that. And other people are saying, if you're thinking about changing your platform, then look at Wix or Squarespace or Classic Press. Somebody recommended as well. And people are advising avoid WooCommerce as well as a platform. So yeah, various advice out there. I think the thing is, if you're a small organization and you're relying on WordPress, to have a chat with your developer. They should be kind of up to speed with what's happening. It was my developer who gave me access to some of these articles, so he was able to allay some of my fears. But just to be aware, things change in tech, and we just need to keep on top of it a little bit. So yeah,
43% of websites on the internet are powered by WordPress.
Exactly. So it's not a small thing.
It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. Okay, so that's the end of the stories we picked up for this episode. So I think we're going to draw to a close there early for today, but hopefully continuing on from next week, we'll kind of have more guests and more stories and keep you entertained for an hour on a Monday from 12 to 1 on YouTube, thanks to Zoom. So great to see you again, Sweyn, and look forward to more of the same.
Look forward to next week
this season. Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.